Do you ever think about your own death? How old will you be? Will it be sudden? There is one group of people in this country who know the answers to both of these questions and are forced to contemplate them for months, sometimes years. Take Mark Robertson, for instance, who knows he will die 4 days from now at 7 p.m. According to the website The Next to Die, he is adding to the 1,493 people in America who have been put to death since 1976. This is capital punishment, and it's time to put the death penalty on trial. First, I will testify as to why the death penalty is flawed. Second, I will inject my logic into determining how the death penalty impacts the lives of our citizens today, including me. Through this process, we will arrive at a final verdict regarding the termination of capital punishment in the United States. Now, you may not think that the death penalty is all that bad because we use the most humane method possible, lethal injection. But is this the truth? Really, it isn't. In fact, according to Psychology Today, many veterinarians believe that lethal injection's 3-drug procedure is barbaric and unfit to be used on even a sick animal. Even more disturbingly, there are instances where the wrong people may have been killed. The National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty reports that in 2004, Cameron Todd Willingham was executed for intentionally starting a house fire that killed his 3 daughters. However, years later, forensic scientists reevaluated the evidence and determined that there wasn't any proof that the fire had been deliberately set. And the Texas Forensic Science Commission confessed that Cameron's sentencing was a product of flawed science. Tragically, Cameron's last words were, "Please, clear my name. I did not kill my children." No one should be put to death when there isn't even complete certainty of their culpability. Unfortunately, there are still others like Cameron. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, as of July 1st, 2017, there are 2,817 people on death row. The campaign Death Penalty Fail estimates that at least 4% of death row inmates are innocent. That's over 100 innocent people currently awaiting their undeserved deaths. Clearly, capital punishment is not fair to all concerned. My second and most important point is personal. On February 24th, 2005, my mother Rosie was murdered by my father, who gave her a calcium supplement that was laced with the poison potassium cyanide. 3 weeks later, my father fled the country and did not return to America for nearly 4 years, until he was apprehended in Cyprus. Despite the fact that America has an extradition treaty with Cyprus, Cyprus does not tolerate the death penalty and therefore was initially unwilling to hand my father over to America. Instead, he was detained in a Cyprus prison for 1 year, and according to an article published by WKYC, was only extradited after our prosecutors made it clear that the death penalty was off the table. If my father had qualified for the death penalty, it is very likely that my family wouldn't have the justice we do today, because my father never would have been forced to return to America and face trial. There are more people like me who have experienced losing one parent at the hands of the other. According to The Atlantic, there were 10,018 women murdered in 18 states over the course of just 1 year. The CDC analyzed that 55% were intimate partner violence related. Think about how many other children are impacted as a result and are unlike me in that their fathers qualify for the death penalty. I remember coming home from first grade and my adoptive parents not being home because they were in court, and kids in my school telling me they saw my family on the news. And yet I'm lucky in that this all faded away when my father's trial ended. But for kids whose fathers are on trial for the death penalty, they are forced to endure years of trials and appeals, headlines, and invasive social media involvement. And that is bad enough. But it's the message that the death penalty sends which is the worst part of all. By enforcing the death penalty, the government is telling these children like me and the rest of the world that under some circumstances, it is okay to kill. But that's exactly how all murderers justify their own motives. That teaches our world that in some cases, murder is justified. But who gets to decide who lives and who dies? If murder is wrong, then how can the death penalty promote goodwill or better friendships? There are simply too many red flags to overlook concerning capital punishment, and we as a nation must recognize that the death penalty is not beneficial to all concerned. That being said, this trial has ended, and it's time for you to decide. What is your verdict?